Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast, all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Joining me today on Better Than I Found It is newly hired head women's coach at Cal Poly, Courtney Roberts. Courtney is one of the brightest young coaches in the game today. Our paths first crossed when she was still a junior golfer, but we interacted on a daily basis when she and I were both coaching at Oklahoma State. Courtney's personality is sweet and lighthearted, but beneath the surface lies a really tough competitor. She is, however, a great example of someone who values relationships over trophies. I hope you enjoy the listening. All right, Better Than I Found It listeners, let's give a big welcome to a very dear friend of mine, an old colleague. She's not old, I am, but a colleague from my days at Oklahoma State, Courtney Roberts from Cal Poly. Courtney, thanks so much for taking time out today. This should be a lot of fun for me.
Thank you so much for having me, Coach.
Yeah, I have missed you too. I called you Courtney Jones forever. I even have a memory of when I was Mike Holder's assistant. He said, let's go down to Oak Tree tomorrow and watch that junior event. I'll watch the guys, half of it, and you can watch the girls. And I'll never forget, on the pairing sheet was a girl named Courtney Jones. I guess it was Kansas City. Is that right?
Lake Quivira, Kansas.
Yeah. And I did watch you that day. And I think I told Amy Weeks that you would probably be a pretty good player, but I don't really remember what happened. Did you visit Oklahoma State?
I did. It was actually my first official visit. And Amy, I still keep in touch with. She I think worked harder than about any coach out there when it came to recruiting. But it just wasn't a fit at that time in my life.
Okay. Well, that's okay. But I've been so used to calling you Courtney Jones through the years, and now it's Courtney Roberts, which is great. And obviously, I know Justin, your husband, very well, and we're going to talk about your family and 2 daughters and twins and all of that here in a minute. But I do want to thank you for being here today. I think we've got some interesting things to talk about. One is your early influences in the game. So I want to ask that. I ask that of most coaches and or players just because I think it's great to look back. It's also good memory for somebody to look back and see who was most influential in their golf. So how'd you get in the game? Who were some of your early influences? And I want to talk about Stan Thirsk. So go.
Well, I'm going to have to take a pause here real quick before we even get started.
Gotcha. Here we go. Justin, how you doing?
Good, Coach. How are you?
Yeah, this is great. So Courtney's just invited her husband, Justin Roberts, in here, and he's got one of the daughters. That's only half of it right there.
The other one looks the same.
That's right. Same DNA, right?
Yeah.
That's great. Well,
good to see you, Coach.
Great to see you too. Awesome. So that was actually, we're not going to splice that out. That was really kind of impromptu there. Courtney's husband, Justin, who used to work at Karsten Creek back in the day when I was the golf coach at Oklahoma State. And they have little twins. Well, let's talk about that right now. Twins. Tell me, twin daughters. What are their names?
Twin daughters, Sophie and Reagan. That right there was Sophie. But it's been incredible. Becoming a parent's pretty special. But we're having a great time with it.
Well, tell me this. They are identical. So how in the world at this age, 6 months old, do you tell them apart? What do you do?
So interestingly enough, Reagan May, named after my dad's mom, my Mimi, and then Justin's grandmother as well, has the middle name May, and she has a mohawk. So her hair is a little bit longer on top. So even though they are, identical, there are little differences there. And Sophie's about 11 ounces, about a pound more, close to a pound more than Reagan right now. She got a little chubbier cheek. So, they always say as parents, you can tell them apart. And I never really believed that. I'd asked multiple friends of mine who had identical twins, like, can you really tell them apart? And you can. They do look completely different to me. But that's what I tell people as I say, Reagan May, she's got the mohawk, and Sophie's hair just kind of sticks straight out.
You do realize 13 years from now, when Sophie is in middle school and she's trying to go to the dance with this young boy, this podcast is going to show up on his feed, and you called her chubby cheeks. She's going to be mortified.
The cutest cheeks in the world.
Okay, all right, that saved it. That saved it. Well, anyway, congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
really fantastic. I know it's two two young girls that you'll have a golf club in their hands before long, and hopefully one day maybe you're recruiting them.
And that is I think such a neat opportunity as a coach to be able to do it all, to raise your family and to raise them in an environment, especially a college town here in San Luis Obispo. Really looking forward to that opportunity. I had some great role models throughout my time as a coach that showed how you can do it all, through my time at Oklahoma State. But even, just getting into the game, you'd mentioned Stan Thirsk, my very first instructor, a gentleman of the game, unbelievable player himself. But he was more to me than just as people say nowadays, sometimes a swing coach. He was almost like a grandfather to me, and a grandfather teaching me everything about not just the fundamentals of the game and the building and foundation of my game there, but also just life and how golf parallels life in those journey throughout. So I started taking lessons from him when I was 9 years old, and would go about weekly to go take lessons from him. And then also, my dad grew up playing golf. He played in college at what back then was Southwest Missouri State University in Springfield, and he didn't end up playing professionally, but he loved the game. He was the club champion at Lake Quivira, and that was something he worked incredibly hard, but he showed that balance as a parent where he might be traveling Monday through Thursday, but then when he'd get home, he was all there, and he'd say, "Hey, Courtney, my brother Derek, have an older brother, 3.5 years older than me. Anybody want to come join me at the golf course?" So I'm like, golf cart ride? Yes, please. Hang out with dad. Yes. So I'd hop right in, and that was one of my favorite things to look forward to is getting to spend time with my dad, being outside in nature, and just starting to learn the game. So he showed that balance as well as my mom, at a really early age, with balancing your career and being a very involved great parent.
Yeah, that's great. My assistant Mikkel has a 3-year-old and about an 8-month-old, and he will bring at least the 3-year-old, but occasionally the 8-month-old. So Axel and Anish, and he brings them to practice to watch practice, and it's such an amazing experience. One, they get to ride in a golf cart, or two, they get to meet. They call them the golf boys. Axel, the 3-year-old, calls them the golf boys, and he's real excited to go out there and see him. So it's also a way that Mikkel can spend time with them. And for you, just let them take rides in the golf cart for a few years, and eventually they'll want to start hitting golf balls with you. And who knows where it goes from there. But no, that's great. And, Stan Thirsk, you mentioned him, legend in that part of the world up in the Kansas City area, was a true legend. He used to play my dad's Pro-Am every single September. The Thursday, Friday, and Saturday after Labor Day was a Cherokee Strip Pro-Am, still going on today. It's the longest continuously running Pro-Am in of its kind in the United States. But Stan played every year, and he won it a few times. And I remember one year he had led the British Open after 18 holes as a club professional, led the British Open after 18 holes. And then a month later, he was playing in our Cherokee Strip Pro-Am. I just thought of him as almost like a godlike figure. And then I didn't get him to caddy for him that week, but a kid on my high school team, or actually junior high team at the time, named Randy Calvert, got to. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a $100 bill pass from one hand to another. He caddied 2 rounds for him, gave him $50 a round, which was a lot of money in 1973. So Stan Thirsk became a real legend to me right then. It's like, that man paid $100 to have somebody carry his bag. But a great player and a really neat man.
Yeah, I grew up in Winfield, Ark City. So I remember him, and that was something really neat. By the time he was 75, when he began teaching me, he actually had retired from being the club professional at Kansas City Country Club. And at times his wife, Audrey, life of a club professional, what that is, and how many hours on, and the impact on a family. But his wife is like, "Okay, you're retired. You are not teaching any more lessons." So he actually had a period of time was sneaking away to Blue Hills in Kansas City to teach me, because Audrey, she's like, nope, no more lessons, you're retired. And then, eventually he wasn't having to sneak away anymore. And we'd have some iced teas and chat, and I'd go over and spend time with Audrey, his wife, quite a bit as well. But yeah, he'd come back and tell stories about going down to Ponca City, as well as Jerry Cosby when he'd go to Bartlesville to Hillcrest there. And that was something really neat, just all the stories and the history that he'd share with me.
I've had a few club professionals and sons of club professionals on this podcast over the last couple of years, and it's the college golf world is very small, that, but the club professional world is also very small. And my dad was a club professional for 40 years. And so when you are that, and then you also host a pro-am, which has, 50 teams, and all 50 teams have a club professional on them in those days. So my dad got to know all those club pros, and I got to know a lot of them as well. I'm really, really thankful that Stan came across my path way back when, and I know you are, definitely, for sure.
Me too. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, you went through the junior golf experience. You were an AJGA junior golf All-American. I think you also were an all scholar, weren't you? Yeah.
I was definitely, I think, better student when I never made like first team All-American, but I was always in the the HP Scholastic All-American at the time is what it was called.
Yeah, but you were we were an honorable mention All-American. That's a golf All-American, but it got you to the University of Tulsa. So let's talk about that. Tulsa's and they've been down for a few years, and Andy Young is obviously doing a great job bringing them back. But when you were there, they were still one of the iconic schools, one of the top 10 schools you would talk about. So talk about the recruiting experience getting there and then your time there.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that. So my time at University of Tulsa was, I actually had never, being only 4 hours from Kansas City. Initially, I didn't think, University of Tulsa, where's that? What, small little private school, just 3,000 undergrads. But when going through the recruiting process, my senior year was an interesting time. September 11th, 2001 happened right in the middle of all of my official visits that I had scheduled. And through that, through that time, that definitely changed my perspective on, wanting to stay maybe a little bit closer to home than initially I would have thought. So just being 4 hours down the road from Kansas City to Tulsa was incredibly attractive to me. And the coach at the time, Melissa, was McNamara then, now Melissa Llewellyn, who's done an unbelievable job, wherever she's gone, at Arizona State, and then as well what she's done there at Auburn. But Melissa recruited me, and something that really stood out to me about Tulsa was that ability to pair the private university academics, as well as, my dream was to play on the LPGA one day. And if I went to the University of Tulsa, Melissa showed me that the possibility for both of those things, get a great institution, get a great degree, and then also hopefully help the team win a national championship, conference championships, and follow my dream of playing on the LPGA, which when I got down there, that didn't end up happening with my career. But I was very fortunate to be at a school in a city and a place that I fell in love with. And then when Melissa, it was actually a month before I started my freshman year of college, is when Melissa, I still remember I was in my kitchen there in Lake Guevara, and I got that call from Coach Mack at the time, and she was going to Arizona State. And I remember, how tough that was. You spend all this time in the recruiting process finding what you believe is, kind of that perfect fit with the combination of the coach, the school, and everything, and where you're gonna, go out and try to achieve all your dreams. But fortunately, she gave me reassurance that, I was gonna go be a great fit at the University of Tulsa. And she was right. She was a big part of the decision, but at the end of the day, it was the right school, it was the right place. And I'm so proud of the education I received there, and I had amazing teammates. So that's something I talk to recruits about is at the end of the day, look at the city, the school, and all of the pieces of the puzzle, and make sure that it's a fit for you as a person, as well as obviously a golfer and a student athlete.
Yeah, when I left Oklahoma State, it was late in the game. It was middle part of June, and um, mine was a little different. I was let go, but the idea was I needed to talk to those prospects that I had recruited, the ones who'd already signed a letter of intent, and the ones who had given verbal commitments. And I talked all but one of them into staying, and that was a verbal commitment from the 2014 class. But I thought, they chose Oklahoma State partly because of me, but the rest of it was the experience and the teammates and the school itself and the region and just the whole deal. So I've always encouraged kids, if you commit to it, do your best to stay with that commitment. Of course, we had no transfer portal in those days, so it wasn't like you could just hop wherever you wanted to go at that time. So I know you're glad that you held to your commitment to go to Tulsa, and it was a great experience for you.
It was, and you modeled that, at Oklahoma State as well. And when I left Oklahoma State, it was similar. Those girls, when they made that decision to come to Oklahoma State, they're perfect fits. It was the place for them to go and try to achieve their dreams in that next step of their life. So I'm grateful for that model that you were as well.
Well, let's talk about our time together at Oklahoma State. I really enjoyed that. I it's funny when men's and women's programs, they're obviously separate at any school, even the schools that it's called a combined program, you're still separated. And but we were pretty close there. Our office was right there together, and it was like we saw a lot of each other. And you kind of knew what was going on in the men's program. We kind of knew what was going on in the women's program. But just tell me about your experience at Oklahoma State. I know, although both of us had to leave maybe before we wanted to, it was a great experience for both of us.
Yeah, no, I'm so incredibly grateful for Alan Bratton and that opportunity to come in and begin my coaching career after spending time at the AJGA. I was there for 4.5 years, but I knew at that point, probably the last year that I was at the AJGA, that I wanted to get into coaching and make a difference in young women's lives. And that was that to have Alan Bratton as the head women's coach at the time, that was someone that I looked at. He stands for everything you want to be, and somebody that when I was looking at starting my coaching career, to have him as a mentor and someone to guide me, that was incredibly attractive. Obviously, Oklahoma State has a great tradition on the women's side and the men's side, but more importantly, it was to learn from someone like him and to see that combination of the men's and women's program. I've been very fortunate in the places that I've been, starting at Oklahoma State and then at Washington, to be surrounded by incredible men's coaches as well as women's coaches. And, that collaboration that I was able to experience at, the first part of my coaching career, to me, that was more the norm. And, as I've continued, I'm trying to think here, I'm on my 11th year in coaching, but I know that isn't the case everywhere in the country. And that was something that was incredibly special at Oklahoma State, as well as Washington. And I see that here at Cal Poly as well. That's something, Bill Rowe and Coach Book, they're really close. We share a facility. Our offices are right by each other. And, I think we can push each other to, when I'd see Victor Hovland practicing down there with our girls at Oklahoma State, or even I remember Wyndham, who taught Kinsey Neisen, who was on my team, teaching her how to hit flop shots. And, just the ability for both of our teams to push each other. And you're talking about winning and getting great players. The best thing that I can provide for them is to be surrounded by other great players. And then in addition to that, on the men's team as well. So you had, not just the men on the team when I was there, young gentlemen on the team, from Taylor Gooch to Ian Davis to Kevin Doherty, but it was one big family there. And when I moved there, I mean, I immediately felt a part of that Oklahoma State golf family, even though I was an outsider because I didn't graduate from Oklahoma State. and almost every other, I think you and I might have been the only coaches there for a long time that hadn't graduated from Oklahoma State. But I was just really, that was such a fun time. And yeah, I mean, our programs would, your guys would win one week, and then we'd go out there, maybe the Windy City, and go win the next. And that was contagious when they're having lunch together at Karsten Creek and they're talking about, just life and how things are going. And it was fun to be able to celebrate, those good times when you guys did come back, and also, getting through maybe the times when we weren't winning quite as much. But in the grand scheme of things, it was just really nice to have that camaraderie.
From a player standpoint, we always encourage our players to learn from each other, ask each other questions, talk about golf, just kind of interact with each other. You can do that across the other teams, like go and learn from the women's team. I learned a lot from Gurleen Kaur, who was here as an All-American at Baylor. I would ask her questions. She worked at the game very, very well and diligently, and she's going to be, I think, a really good professional. But so we encourage our players to do it. Why shouldn't we do it as coaches?
Yeah.
Just bounce ideas off of each other. And I know we did that at Oklahoma State. I did that at Alabama. I mean, Jay Sewell and I were screaming at each other through the walls down there at the Jerry Pate Golf Center with information and ideas. And then obviously now Mikkel and I are the same way here, and we talk to Jay Goebel and his assistant Carly all the time. So, it's a lot of value, very good value in that for sure. So let's talk about Mary Lou. Mary Lou Moeffler, when I was the women's head coach at Oklahoma State, she latched on to me, which I was thankful for because I didn't have a lot of friends on the women's side. It was like not a lot of them took to me all that well. I was only there 1 year as the coach, but Mary Lou somehow or another connected with me. And we started an email thread where one would send an email to the other, and it would just be an example of something really crazy that's happened to her. And then I would read that and I go, wow. And I'd send one back to her. So Mary Lou and I connected. I had the men's team at Oregon for the national championship in 2016. And we got there a day early, obviously, to watch the finals of the women's. And I saw Mary Lou standing over on the tee, and she looked at me and she came over and gave me a big hug. And I said, good luck today. Well, she won. And but I have great memories of my year as a women's coach. Part of it was due to Mary Lou. Tell me about your relationship with her.
She is an incredible human being. And that's so funny that you say that you had that email thread going back and forth of some of the craziest things, because she actually sent me an email yesterday saying, okay, can you think back to, can you make a log? Now I didn't, I'm not as eloquent as you in being a published author, but she requested for me to go through and think of all of our memories and time together. And I'm going to put together a document for her, because it's like, if you don't write it down as a coach, then it's hard to remember all these things. And you modeled that beautifully as well at Oklahoma State when you were taking, you had your book, Things That Work, and you're writing everything down in there. But no, Mary Lou, she is so passionate, caring, feisty, competitive. She's really, really a teddy bear. People don't realize that necessarily from the outside, but just a heart of gold, a purple and gold. She always talks about it. She definitely bleeds purple. This will be her 40th season at the University of Washington. So talk about having some good stories. And man, she's had some, from winning the national championship, and what a special group of young women that was, to then just bringing me on board. That was the hardest thing really about coaching, is those players that you impact. And then, I view myself, I'm a coach for life. I want them to pick up the phone and call me. And, Lexi Sadahi just graduated from law school, and, to get a call from her, or Jade Panos down in Houston. I love, Jade will just call me with her Aussie accent, like, hey coach, how's it going? So, that's something that Mary Lou models as well, is she, she's going to help them forever. And, 40 years worth of team. She's got a lot of great experience, and she's still just, always learning, always, reminds me somewhat, of Alan and you and Goots and like our whole staff together. But she's creative, and no matter what, she's trying to figure out what can she do that's, kind of leading edge. What, we're trying to think of what could we do next always. So I always appreciated that. And then, at practices. It's a little bit different, and I really enjoyed it, my time at Washington, but, we didn't have the facility right there like we did at Carson Creek. So before the pandemic, we would drive down to Washington National and we'd have that time in the car together. We'd be brainstorming. But when you're down there at our facility, it was a little bit easier maybe to just completely separate and compartmentalize, where, at Carson Creek at times, it felt like you're drawn back into the office a bit, but that was something that she really modeled. And, we came up with some really, really fun, tough, challenging practices, and just brainstorming and trying to think of what's something crazy that we can do that's going to push them outside their comfort zone and also help them be great. Coach Holder, that was something that, legendary when it comes to that, and, how he established that at Oklahoma State. I think that was something that passed down through the years as well. But just, thinking of how can our job isn't to be your friend, it's to see how we can help you get better. And, spending that time outside your comfort zone is incredibly important. And Mary Lou would have a lot of fun coming up with things that we could, see how the girls can handle it.
Sure, absolutely.
Showing up for qualifying with that, you're not going to warm up. You're just going to go straight out and we're going to play. Or speed golf, that's something that I believe you may have done as well at Carson.
Yes.
And we had done with, Par. I had a fantastic assistant coach when I was there at Oklahoma State. And, we always enjoy that and thinking how we can come up with some really cool, creative ideas for practice. And, from speed golf to, in Seattle, you do get a little bit of rain, but it's not like thunderstorms, when a front would come through in Stillwater. You're out there because it's just a light mist and you're in it all the time. So that was something that we viewed as an advantage for us, because it was going to make us tough. Similar to that philosophy there at Oklahoma State as well. Like, bring it on, bring that 30-mile-an-hour north wind when it's 40 degrees out and you're going out to qualify. But no, Mary Lou is an incredibly special human being, coach, and she just wants to give back. And I see what you've done, and all the lives that you've impacted as a coach as well, and continue to. And I feel fortunate to have spent time around people like you and her.
Well, thank you for that. I think that gratitude is one of the greatest human qualities, period. And every once in a while, you just need to stop and think about the people that have impacted you and your players. You're not just impacting them, they're impacting you as well. That some of the things they do in life, you're just going, wow, that's amazing. Or some of the progress that kids make, or whatever it is, it's a two-way street for sure. So Cal Poly, all right, that's where you are. And go Mustangs.
Go Mustangs.
Go Mustangs. You're on the West Coast now for a second straight coaching job. So you and I have mirrored some of the same things in our career. We both worked as an assistant coach for a while, and then at a head coach at a pretty iconic school, and then back to an assistant coach again, and then now a head coach again. But you've done it a little bit more outside the geographical area than I have. I went to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but that's not really that far away. And so tell me about transitioning to the West Coast and how it's different. Is life different out there for you? Besides two daughters. I know that's different.
That's a whole nother story there. It's interesting that you say that, because San Luis Obispo, there are so many things in this community, in this small college town, that remind me of my time at Oklahoma State and at Stillwater. So, it is interesting, because you do growing up in Kansas City or in the Midwest, you're thinking, oh, it's the West Coast and it's all lumped together. But it's been really, really neat, from my growth perspective, to go be in a giant city like Seattle, where, you've got Amazon headquarters, Nordstrom, Costco, tech hub. So to go from, Stillwater being in a college town to then just that lively, bright, just anything you could think of, you can do in Seattle, pre-pandemic, because that was a whole nother, when I arrived there, it was, I started July 2019. So, I saw how it was before the world shut down. And, we wore masks for quite a while in Seattle, a lot longer than you guys were in Texas and other parts of the country.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been really neat. Now, the Husky family there at the University of Washington, similar to Oklahoma State, where the athletic department is incredibly close. So you're in this massive city, which, go to Seahawks game, Mariners games. There's something you can do every single night of the week. A little different than Stillwater, when if you're looking for Thai food, there's one spot, you're going to Thai Cafe.
Oh yeah.
So few more food options in Seattle. But when you're in that athletic community, if I'm wearing purple walking around in Seattle, people will be like, go Dogs, go Huskies. So even though you're in that giant city, it felt like a bit of a small town right there when you're on campus. But Cal Poly, it's much more of kind of a Texas, Oklahoma meets California feel. And, it's funny, just the way that life works. And I was an AJGA tournament director and ran a junior all-star event out here in, I think, 2009 or 10 in San Luis Obispo at a golf course called Cypress Ridge. And that was my first experience with San Luis Obispo, or as people call it, it's slow. And growing up in Kansas, I just kind of thought, when you think of California, you think of LA, you think of San Francisco, or at least that's what I did. But I mean, talk about an agricultural
Oh yeah.
mecca here. And that's part of those, I guess, the things that remind me so much of Oklahoma State. I mean, we got a rodeo team. We've got, from an ag standpoint, just a unbelievable engineering and agriculture research institution here. So it's just interesting. While it is the West Coast, and maybe people from Kansas or Oklahoma tend to lump it all together. It's just really got that small town feel. And that was part of, the passionate supporters and community here reminded me of like the Oklahoma State golf supporters and fans. And, that the moment I felt that on my interview, and even just in the Zoom interviews throughout the process, it's something that really attracted me to Cal Poly. And golf's a big deal here. People care when you're out at Slow Country Club and you're walking around. Being a golfer is a big deal. And that was something that, it may be tough at times at Oklahoma State because of, there's not many other places where maybe the golf team and the football team are held
On the
to
same level.
Yeah, but it's also something that I really, cherish and enjoyed about working for Coach Holder and being at Oklahoma State, is that golf was a big deal. So that's something that I feel like I found here at Cal Poly. And with my new team, I can't wait to kind of bring the best of Oklahoma State with that college town community, and then University of Washington with amazing academics, and it brings together both of those items.
Well, good. So your experiences probably have you ready for that, I guess. So
I sure hope so.
yeah, for sure. Well, you've been coaching now 11 years. When you said that, it kind of shocked me. I really had a hard time believing that, but you've been coaching 11 years. And in that time, I know you've had a lot of things that maybe you weren't sure, like, wow, I didn't believe that. So what's the biggest surprise for you? Because you weren't going to be a coach. You were working for the AJGA after a playing career, and then all of a sudden a coaching opportunity came about. And everybody that gets the coaching bug, you think, oh, this would be great. Everything's going to be pie in the sky and it'll all be perfect. What's the biggest surprise you've had as a coach?
Well, I think there's surprises every single day, and that's what I love about it. It's when I was working at the AJGA, Stephen Hamblin's done an incredible job there, and Oski, as we would call him, the COO, and he was my boss, and then also just he's been a great mentor to me throughout my whole career path. But when I mentioned to him that I wanted to get into coaching, he was helping connect me with folks. But the reason for that is, we're able to spend, the most transformational 4 years of these, young men and young women's lives. We're able to be there every single day. So when you're working with 18 to 22-year-olds, they're always on your toes, good, bad. In a lot of ways, I felt like I was a parent in some ways before I actually became a parent. And And all of that is something that, that I really enjoy about it. So that's something that, throughout my time as a coach, it's helped prepare me for that.
Wow. Okay. I'd never heard that. I have something surprising happens every day. That's pretty surprising, but no, it is. That's kind of the way coaching is, because you never know what it's going to be from one day. Okay. So getting a little more serious on this part is like, what's been the most disappointing moment in your coaching career? And if you were able to do so, how did you use that to propel you forward? How did you use it to make you a better coach?
Yeah, no, it's that kind of the learn by doing. Unfortunately, you gotta bottle up that experience and all the good and the bad, and reflect and see. It's gotta be. I mean, I don't know how there's two that stand out, and they're both things that it's regional championships. You're there, and you know it's coming down to the final round. And we were hosting. It was my very first year as a head coach at Oklahoma State when we were hosting, and we tied after. It's incredible how it comes down to one stroke. It always comes down to one
Yes.
stroke. And I think that week there may have been like 1,181 strokes. And we were, sure enough, we were tied with the University of Florida, and went into a playoff. And hosting at Carson Creek and having that Oklahoma State community around, there's nothing better than that, to see the fairways lined and people, and the way that the community comes out and supports golf and supports the team. But with that, also incredibly challenging. We lost on the playoff hole, and that walk back, I'll never forget that with my team. But you learn from it. You learn and you grow in that same team. I mean, it makes them hungrier the next day. And then in addition to that, we're hosting the national championship in 2018, and we're out at Harding Park. And you do everything as a coach. It's like you're going to prepare in the same way that you prepare. It's you're chasing after that little white ball. You got to get the ball in the hole and as few strokes as possible, and try to simplify it. And we missed by a stroke there at Harding Park when we were hosting. So those were two, incredibly challenging times, but I believe that it really shows the value of that one stroke, and the players get it. And that's something that if you can, I guess if youth knew and age could, one of Coach Holder's favorite sayings, but it's so true. If you can bottle up that experience and share it with freshmen when they come in, and having that leadership from within on a team. That was something really neat when Kenzie Neisen was on my team at Oklahoma State. Is her freshman year, we go down to San Antonio, and she wins the Big 12 championship as an individual, and we finish fifth as a team. I think Baylor won the women's team championship that year. But Kenzie is like, I don't want to do that again. I want my team to win. She's like, it's not any fun just winning by yourself. And so having that leadership from within, that was really, really powerful to have a kid like that then next year gets everybody on board. And of course, Par and I as a coaching staff, we're preaching that as well. But it's so much more powerful when it's coming from within and within the culture of the team. And that's contagious. But to, golf being an individual sport their whole lives, college is really special in that way, where you do get to come together as a team. And 5 players, you're counting 4 scores. Never say never. You never know. I mean, one stroke, a lot can change there. A lot of momentum swings. And it was neat to have Kenzie just bringing that perspective, that it was more, it was about the team. She'd won, but it wasn't as meaningful. She wanted to be there with her teammates to celebrate.
Yeah, Mike Holder always told the story about Scott Verplank, who had had one of the greatest college golf careers in history, one of the great amateur careers in history. He won on the PGA Tour while he was at Oklahoma State and all that. His senior year, they had the best team in the country, and they lost to Wake Forest in North Carolina on the last day. And Scott won the national championship individually and was getting ready to turn pro the next week. he was miserable. He cried. It was just a terrible experience for him because he wanted to win as a team. Think that that's something you don't realize until after you're gone, if you're a player, how much it actually meant to you. I mean, maybe you do, but a lot of times kids don't. So that's great that you had that example, and it actually propelled the team the next year, which is great. Now let's get on a little more positive note. The most exciting, the most exhilarating moment you've had in coaching in 11 years.
Well, it's gotta be that year what I was talking about when Kinsey, came back and working with uh that group of young women there at Oklahoma State. It was a special season in 2015 to 2016. We the year before we had a lot of close misses, and then to see the hard work and the growth and the transformation on the team, that was incredible. I mean, I think we came in. I don't know how many tournaments. You probably know, your memory is so much. You probably could tell me how many tournaments we won that year. But in the spring, I think we'd won 3 tournaments in a row, and we're going into the Bedlam match that we would always do with the University of Oklahoma, and then go to Auburn. And I believe Alabama was actually, you were at Alabama at the time, I think,
Yeah.
but we were there at the Auburn regional, and team, we're going there to win it. When you have that mindset where it's not about just getting to nationals, like you're going and you're going to win the tournament. I mean, that's why we're there. That's why we're competing. And every week that team was looking to go and win. And that's just a total mindset that that was just a really special group of young women that worked incredibly hard, but also very talented, and came together. And with that we qualified for nationals there at Eugene Country Club. Kind of an interesting parallel, as Mary Lou and I then worked together, and that was the year that they won the national championship at Eugene Country Club. But that's got to be, that spring season in 2016, and winning the Big 12s, that probably those stand out. A lot of those memories with that
That's
team.
great. That's great. So tell me, I'm going to do a speed round with you to end on, but before we do that, I want you to tell me about your team this year. It's brand new to you, so talk about your team that you've got coming in.
Well, I've got 7 young women from, we actually do have a Swedish player, an incoming freshman, Siri Jansen. Really, really excited. So I've, at this point, I'm grateful for Zoom and the virtual world, because I've had an opportunity to FaceTime or Zoom with Siri, our incoming freshman, and then everyone on the team. That was, how I met them for the first time was through Zoom. But I'm just looking forward to getting everyone together. We have our first report date is September 1st. We've got Siri is from Sweden, and then we've got Camille Dimayuga from California. We got several girls from California on the team. Nicole Neal, as well as Carissa Wu, Jensen Jalufka, who's actually from Austin, Texas. She's a Vandergrift High School grad. And then we've got 2 fifth-year seniors that are coming back, which is really neat. Vanessa Wang and Liz Schultes. And, Sophie, the coach here before me, Sophie, and Coach Cartwright, but Sophie did an incredible job in identifying really talented players that work hard and they love the game. So I'm looking forward to getting in, and they won Big West the last 2 years. Really got a lot of things going in the right direction with the program. And then, injecting Siri, who, has played a tremendous amount in Sweden and really powerful player, it looks like. Just really looking forward to getting out there and being at the course at practice with them. That's why we do this, is getting to be out there and actually coach. So that's always the beginning of the year when students come back. In Stillwater, you could feel it. You feel it more in a college town, obviously, than say in Seattle, but it's just that beginning of the year energy. And you start to identify. We're going to talk through our team culture, values, all of it. And that's all going to kickstart September 1st, this Thursday.
And so those girls, they haven't missed a fairway or missed a 3-foot putt. They haven't done anything wrong, right?
Exactly. No, I'm just really looking forward. I mean, that's why I do this. It's about those young women and developing the relationships and trying to to figure out how I can and make them better in
Wow.
life, better on the golf course. And so get to
Well,
actually meet them in person.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I want to wish you all the best of luck. We'll be watching from afar, obviously. But anyway, best of luck for a great year. Let's do this
Thank
speed
you.
round.
You too. All right.
All right. Chick-fil-A or Chipotle?
Chick-fil-A.
Shawshank Redemption or Remember the Titans?
Remember the Titans.
Excellent choice. George Strait or Luke Bryan?
George Strait.
Wow. God, I'm just so thankful when somebody says that, because the other answer is not even an answer. It's laughable. But anyway, favorite pro football team?
Kansas City Chiefs.
That
Go
a girl
Chiefs.
should be. I actually have a great memory of the '69 Chiefs when Hank Stram, Len Dawson. That
Oh,
whole
Lynn
group.
Dawson. Yeah.
Yeah, what a great time to watch pro football back then. Okay, favorite pro athlete, just in any sport.
Michael Jordan.
Okay, I do like that. I'm not a LeBron fan. A bunch of the young kids nowadays are. I'm not. I'm definitely a Michael Jordan fan. Most famous person you've had dinner with?
Mike McGraw.
There you go. I knew it. On that note, what's your favorite Coach McGraw quirk? Because there are so many.
Oh, let's see here. I just love the push-ups in the
Okay.
story when Pam is
Oh,
cold
no.
and like your suggestions there. Let's see. There's so many great things. I miss our lunches at 11 o'clock on the dot with Goots and Alan, and it's like, okay, 10:59, let's go, and going in and breaking bread and having lunch with you. I'd say 11
that
o'clock.
tradition. We never eat later than about 11:15 here in Waco. So I've been up since 4:30. It's time for lunch.
I
Come on.
know.
All right. Favorite course you played?
Kansas City Country Club.
Oh, love that place. What a golf course. All right. Final question. Your dream foursome, you and three other people, and they could be alive, not alive, just three other people to join you for one more round of golf.
Oh man. My dad, Stan Thirsk, Tom Watson, and Patty Sheehan.
Okay. Well, and that's one of the connections we didn't make earlier. Stan was really, really good friends with Tom Watson and had mentored him as well. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Courtney. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today. It brought back some great memories, but also helped me get to know you a little bit better, even since I haven't known you since you've had two children with these twins. You're a different person.
Thank you so much. And you're a twin. We didn't even really get into that.
Well, that's because my twin is a better player than I am. That's why.
Patty is amazing.
She's a great player. So, well, thank you so much. Best of luck. Let's stay in touch, and you guys have a great year there. Okay.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.